give me a moment here. So yeah, this is the Pacific Northwest NVIS. My name is Ross. My call sign is Whiskey 7 Romeo Oscar Victor. This set happens every Tuesday night at 1900 or 7 p.m. Pacific time. So primary frequency is 3.930 megahertz with an alternate of 3.940 megahertz. And if you were listening, I was just telling Dean N7 X-Ray Sierra that the solar flux index is 166, testbed number 106, K index is 12, K index is 3. The critical frequency for night is 7 megahertz. So that means we have some pretty good conditions right now. So if you're a licensed operator, please join into our conversations. The purpose of this net is for you to check in and ask questions to tell us about any observations you may have about ham radio NVIS, general topics, or interesting trivia. We can also engage in override trivia. And sometimes I'll even bring a topic to the table. It could be about anything, antennas, operating modes, or any general topics of interest for the amateur radio community. Participants will do their best to get an answer to your question of interest. This is a semi-directed net. If you have a question that is being answered, please feel free to have an open exchange with those who are answering your question after they have ID'd with their call sign. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner to NVIS or a seasoned operator, you can be fairly confident that everybody at one point has probably had the same question that you have. So if you've checked in at least once in the past several months, I have a log that will have your name and location. If you haven't checked in, please provide your call sign, name, and location. And I would love to know how you became aware of the Pacific Northwest NVIS net. This is, again, Ross, Whiskey 7 Romeo Oscar Victor. Please go easy on me and say your call sign slowly and phonetically, because I'm not the greatest typist in the world. And let's try not to pile up, but we'll work those out. So let's get on with this. And let's see, the topic for tonight is 80-meter antenna configurations for either small lots or HOAs. Give the net some ideas. What works for you? I think this could be a very interesting topic for tonight. And I'm looking forward to a lot of open discussion. So let's start. We've got Mark, Whiskey 7 Echo Alpha Zulu, and Dean, November 7 X-Ray Sierra, in the checked in so far. Who's next?
Whiskey 7 India Uniform Sierra. Jeff.
Oh, Whiskey 7 India Uniform Sierra. Jeff in Covington. Who's next?
Kilo Juliet 7, Charlie Kilo Juliet.
Don in Chimicon. Thanks for checking in, Don. You're sounding really good, too. Who's next?
W6 TX, Mike Olympia.
All right, Mike. There was a little delay. I thought I heard you through the mic, and then you weren't there, but you came in. Sounding good. Who's next?
Kilo India 7 Juliet Lima Kilo.
And Kilo India 7 Juliet Lima Kilo. Now, what is the name? And are you in Powell Butte, Oregon?
Yeah, we're down here in Prineville, Oregon. First check-in here, I think.
Name, please. Could I get your name, please?
The name's Don, Delta Oscar, November.
Thanks, Don. I hope you make this a habit. Who's next to check in?
November 7 Romeo Lima Victor.
Rob on Vashon Island. Great to hear you, Rob. Let's go to the next person. Who's next?
Kilo Juliet 7, Sierra X-Ray Romeo.
Joel, good to hear from you, Joel. Who's next?
Kilo Juliet 7, Alpha India, Jeff in Redmond.
Thanks, Jeff. Coming in good. Who's next?
Whiskey Alpha 7, Delta Golf.
That's Dwayne in Des Moines. Good evening, Dwayne. Who's next?
Kilo India 7, Oscar India.
Bill in Kent. Very good. Who's next?
Kilo Alpha 7, Oscar Victor Quebec, and Burien, Mark.
Mark in Burien. Very good. Thanks for checking in, Mark. Who's next? Anyone else want to check into the Pacific Northwest NVIS tonight?
November 7, Delta Oscar Hotel.
Hold on. November 7, Delta Oscar Hotel. And that's Paul in Post Falls. Man, Paul, you're coming in great tonight. Who else wants to check in tonight? Any other check-ins for the Pacific Northwest NVIS tonight? Please come now. All right, well, we got about 15 check-ins today. That's really good. Let's see. The topic, like I said, we were talking amongst ourselves in the Mike and Key Club, and there are several people who want to participate in this bet, but they live on small lots or HOAs or even apartments, so with a balcony. And so I've read some articles on how to get an 80-meter antenna in an HOA area or a small lot, and I was wondering if the group that has checked in tonight has any comments or ideas on that. Please come now.
Well, it's N7XS.
Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, you could always set up a mobile type antenna with a 102-inch whip on the top of it with a 90-degree angle on it, and like an inverted L, and have a radial off of it, run it into your apartment or whatever, and that sort of thing. And they work. I've heard guys running them that way, and like on 20 meters and stuff. But for the NVIS part of it, that's why the whip should be at 90 degrees to the top of the antenna.
Right, and I've seen multiple articles on NVIS antennas, and they usually have like a Humvee part with a whip antenna, just like you were talking about, that is pulled horizontal from the rear bumper to the front bumper, and the military seems to like that a lot. Any other comments out there? So I saw an interesting solution, and in a regular dipole antenna, there's nothing that says that both legs of the dipole have to be straight. So if you can imagine a dipole antenna somewhat shaped like a square Z, so you can bend the antenna to fit within the envelope of your lot, or even have the antenna routed like from the front of your house out to either side and then back. that will work too. Any comments on that?
W6TF.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
All right, I'll turn up the monitor a little bit. Yeah, I used to live in a beach community down in Long Beach, California, Belmont Shore, Naples, if you're familiar with that area. 30 by 80, mostly beach lots. Some of them were 25, 75, but I was on a 30 by 80 lot of a 3 floor of my houses. And I did what you just indicated. I had a trap dipole, and this thing was, I forget the brand, but it's trap dipole, and I had that thing on a 30 by 80 lot, and I had it, it wasn't real high, it was running on a fence line, and I had it dog-legged, in front of the property, you couldn't see it, down the fence line, and it was just, this kludge, but it worked. W6TF.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what I was talking about. And for ID, this is Whiskey 7 Romeo Oscar Victor. And one of the benefits for using an NVIS configuration is the antenna doesn't have to be very high off the ground. 15 feet is ideal in some cases. My antenna is 15 feet off the ground, and it's horizontal, and it works great. And so you don't have to, in a lot of cases, you don't have to have the antenna elements above the eave of your house. So any other comments about the trap dipole that Mike just described? All right, so I hear a lot of silence out there. Does anyone have any comments or ideas of their own? How do you guys have your antennas set up?
77RLV.
Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, so I remember a few months back, one of our members on this net had a vertical, which blew my mind. They said the vertical had NVIS properties to it, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm thinking it might have been Paul, November 7, Delta Oscar Hotel. So if you would, can we find out what kind of antenna Paul has?
All right, Paul, Delta, Oscar, let's see, no, that's, God, where'd you go? Let's see, yeah, Paul, November 7th, Delta Oscar Hotel. Paul, are you still out there? And what kind of antenna are you running?
Yeah, the 7DOH. Right now I'm on a long wire, but yes, I have checked into the net on a vertical antenna. It's 20 feet, sitting pretty much on the ground, 20 feet high. It's an OCF type antenna, so there's no ground planes, there's no ground wires, ground plane or anything. But yeah, it works pretty good, but it doesn't like to load up down here this far on 80 meters, so I was trying to get it to load up today, and it's not cooperating very well, so I'm on the long wire right now. But yeah, I have checked in with the vertical antenna. Go ahead, and 7DOH.
So do you want to respond to that, Rob?
All right, thank you, Ross. Well, and thank you, Paul. I thought it might have been you, because when you mentioned it back when you checked in with it, it blew my mind that a vertical, and you're in Post Falls, Idaho, so it's a fur piece. So maybe it's not endless. Maybe it's coming at a low enough angle that it's actually ionospheric lower angle skip. I don't know how to tell the difference, but I think, Paul, one more question for you and 7DOH. Did you say it came with a recommendation that it had NVIS properties? Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, it does list NVIS properties. But yeah, like you say, I'm not sure how much it gets in over there, but it does list having some NVIS properties. It doesn't have any ground wires or anything. It's offset, offset to bed, vertical. So I guess it has a little bit of NVIS properties. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And Ross, could I give you my most remarkable small 80-meter NVIS antenna story?
Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. Rob, go ahead.
So it must have been extraordinary conditions, but I was trying my it's the little 20-watt Chinese radio. Maybe it's a Xiegu. Yeah, the Xiegu G90. And I was using it on 80 meters. It has this remarkable antenna tuner built into it. And I was using ham stick dipole up 8 feet in the air. But the ham sticks were 20-meter ham sticks. So it's a small antenna, highly loaded for 20 meters. And then I tuned it on 80 meters. And I got into the Columbia Basin net with net control over in Montana on 20 watts. So I think it must have been exceptional conditions, but it blew my mind that worked. That's my story. Back to you, N7RLV.
Yeah, Rob. Now, were your hand sticks horizontal or vertical? And I'm assuming they were set up in a dipole configuration?
Roger. I had two of them horizontal, opposing each other in a dipole mount made for ham sticks. Back to you.
That's great. That's why before I start either the Warts net or this net, I always go and look at what the solar terrestrial data is. And, the rule of thumb is if your solar flux is above 150 and your K is 2 or less, you should have good conditions. Now, our solar flux is 166 and our K is 3, but we're doing pretty good. And especially with Paul, November 7th, Delta Oscar Hotel, he's one of my favorites because he's been postponed. And Paul, you're coming in very, very well for me tonight. And it sounds like you're coming in well for Rob, and he's on Vashon Island. That's a good antenna story. That's kind of what I was looking for tonight, Rob. Does anybody else have a good antenna story for using 80 meters or 40-meter NVIS? Please come now.
Alpha Charlie 7 Kilo Papa.
Go ahead, David. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just wanted to check in with you there, Ross. Hopefully everyone's having a good evening. I can hear Rob real good, but yeah. Anyhow, I was doing okay here on this end. I just figured I walked in the room. I figured, man, I better check in real quick before I have to go to another net. This is AC7. Can't be back to net.
All right, David. I know there's lots of nets out there. What time is it? It's 19:19, so we have a few minutes. So thanks for checking in, David, and we'll talk to you next week. Anybody else with a good antenna story for us tonight?
And N7XS.
So I got a double. I got N7XS and somebody else was with him. Did you come back?
W7IUS, Whiskey 7 India, Uniform Kilo.
All right, W7IUS. That's Jeff in Covington. Let's go to, I want to go to Dean on Camino Island first. So November 7, X-Ray Sierra. Dean, what do you have to tell us?
Well, I was just going to talk a little bit about my mobile setup and all the experimenting that I did with 102-inch whips at different angles and all that stuff. And if you want to, I had a HiQ 6160 with a capacity hat and a 102-inch whip on the top of it. And I was trying to figure out, you know, how I could have the full-size whip on there without hitting the top of the Alaska Way Viaduct when I drove down it. And anyway, I experimented with a bunch of angles of the whip off the top of the capacity hat, and I had it at 45 degrees for a while, where the 102-inch whip came off the top of the capacity hat. I bent it at 45 degrees. I just heated it up with a torch and bent it. And what happened was that any of the local nets that I would check into, like Warts or Columbia Basin or anything like that, the signal was just phenomenal for the local area around, Oregon, Washington, and all that stuff. And when it was vertical, it wasn't quite so good. So that's a good tip if any of you guys are out there running mobile and stuff and want to try that. You get a really loud mobile signal that way. So anyway, Ross, that's my story. Back to you.
Very good, Dean. That was interesting. So you had a capacitive hat on your antenna, and I wasn't quite sure how you said you took a torch and bent it. How did you bend it?
Well, I just heated up the stainless steel whip. I had a 102-inch whip above the antenna, so the antenna itself is about 4 feet long, and then at 5 feet above the car I had the capacity hat, and then above that I had the stainless steel whip that I used the torch to bend and stuff. So it ended up working out really good if you wanted to work the local area. But what I ultimately ended up with was one that was bent like a hook. It went up and came back down again, and then that worked really good on 20 meters, and it worked good on 75 meters for DX too. But that was what I was really looking for. But I stumbled onto the 45-degree thing mainly the same way you did, by looking at at what the military was doing, and I tried it for a while, and it was amazing.
Well, very good, Dean. Great. That's great. A little bit of experimentation always pays off, and it's also fun. So let's go to Whiskey 7 at India Uniform Sierra. Jeff, how you doing?
Yeah, it's W7IUS. Just was going to share the antenna I use for NVIS is a Wyndham that I have in a dipole configuration, runs alongside the house. And highest point for that is about 15 feet off the ground. It seems to be picking up signals pretty well. And here, one more item. I remember some years back there was at a bed and breakfast up in Cookville on Whidbey Island, and I happened to meet a fellow guest who was a ham operator from Camino Island. I don't remember the call sign. Anyway, so we had something in common. Anyway, again, thanks for running that. W7IUS, will be clear.
Yeah, Jeff, you mentioned a Wyndham antenna. Now, that's another name for a Wyndham antenna is an off-center fed antenna. Is that correct?
Yeah, affirmative.
Very good. I like off-center fed antennas. They are just so versatile, and they're multi-band. They're really a great antenna. So, and I would highly recommend that. And you said it's 15 feet off the ground. Is that like an inverted D or an inverted L?
Can I get with your question? W7IUS.
Yeah, the configuration of your antenna, is it an inverted V, an inverted L, or is it a horizontal dipole?
And it's about 110 feet long. It's kind of interesting. I've got a entertainment center downstairs in the family room, which is on the same side of the house as the antenna. And there's two side cabinets that have these lights in the top, and the hinges are the switches, so you tap the hinge, and the light comes on. It's got 3 different settings. Sometimes the RF energy off that Wyndham will turn the lights on, so I have to go downstairs after I'm done with the net to turn the lights on. Anyway, back to you, W7IUS.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Great information. Anyone else out there with some ideas, comments, or questions? can hear you guys breathing. There must be something to say out there.
Well, I've got some observations.
Is that Dean at November 7th, X-Ray Sierra?
Yes, it is. Okay, I got some signal reports here for everybody. W7EAZ, I had it S5 when he checked in. W7IUS was S9. KJ7CKJ was plus 10. S9 plus 10. W6TS was 20 plus. KI7JKL was plus 10. N7RLV was plus 20. KJ7SXR was plus 30, what I wrote down. KJ7AAI is plus 20. WA7DG was plus 20. KI7OUI was plus 20. Lots of plus 20s tonight. KA7OVQ plus 20. N7DOH was S9, and he was 10 over at one point there. So NW7ROV was plus 10, and AC7KP is plus 20. There you go. There's all my signal reports from here on Camano Island tonight.
That's great information, Dean. I think I would have to say these are probably the best conditions we've had for the Pacific Northwest NVIS, because the only thing we need to hear is we need to get a contact in Montana and Provo, Utah, like we did last week. So anyone out there in Montana, Idaho, Utah, Oregon? Nothing heard. So, are there any other check-ins for the Pacific Northwest NVIS set?
Kilo Fox 7, Sierra Delta Lima.
Kilo Fox 7, Sierra Delta Lima. If I could actually type this in properly. That's Chuck in Maple Valley. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing fine over here in Maple Valley. I just came in and was listening to you talking out here and talking about different antennas, but the only one I got is a 540-foot loop that works for NVIS and works for distance.
Well, you can't beat loops. Have you ever talked to Mark? Whiskey 7 Alpha Echo Zulu. He's down in Independence, Oregon. He's the most knowledgeable loop antenna ham that I know.
I don't remember talking to him, but I probably have, and I don't really always write them down enough.
Yeah, I've been Enumclaw, you're in Maple Valley, but you're coming in a good strong 5x9. And Mark, Whiskey 7 Echo Alpha Zulu, are you still out there? Are you still operating at 4 watts? Are you still operating 4 watts? That's just amazing. I can hardly wait until you get some real power behind your antenna. So anyhow, Chuck, Kilo Foxtrot 7 Sierra Delta Lima, did you hear Mark, Whiskey 7 Echo Alpha Zulu?
Yes, I could hear him. I heard him say Roger, 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 but I really couldn't make out much more than that.
Yeah, he's in Independence, Oregon, running 4 watts. He keeps promising to get more power, but yeah, that's 4 watts. That's pretty good. That's pretty good NVIS. So anything else, you guys?
Yeah, I'm running a loop also up here.
Is that you, Dean?
Yes, N7XS.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a horizontal loop, and how far off the ground is it?
Mine's actually a vertical loop. I have it hanging in the fir trees up here. It is 62 feet for 62 feet per side, and it's fed at the bottom 6 feet off the ground with a 75 ohm quarter wave matching stub.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, is that just a loop, or is it kind of think of another antenna? Is there another name for that antenna, Dean?
Yeah, it's a full wave loop. It's a 1 wavelength long wire that's in a square configuration. So it's just a full wave loop is the name of it.
All right. And you said it's vertical.
Yes, it's a vertical loop. It's not horizontal, and it hangs up in the trees. So, like I said, it's 62 feet per side. There's 4 sides, and it equals out to 1 wavelength. And at the bottom, I've fed it with a quarter wave matching stub of 75 ohm coax, and then that runs into some RG213 into the shack, and that helps with the impedance matching from 100 ohms to 50.
Yeah, very good. That's now. Let's see, the loop is 100 ohms and the cable is 75. So if you do a little math, put those in parallel, is that how you get 50 ohms?
Yeah, it's equal to a quarter wave. It's the same. It's the same kind of concept as you guys have been playing around with the coax stubs and that sort of thing for notching out signals and stuff. Except I use 75 ohm coax, and it's a quarter wavelength long, and then that takes the 100 ohms at the feed point of the loop and changes it to 50, and then it comes into some RG213 into the shack.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's the kind of interesting information I was looking for tonight. So thanks. Anything else, Dean?
Nope, that's it. Just wanted to talk about the antenna a little bit.
Yeah, very good. Is there anyone else who wants to check into the Pacific Northwest Indecent tonight? Please come now. Was that you, Mark? Dean, can you hear Mark? Whiskey 7 Echo Alpha Zulu.
Yeah, just barely. He's right in my static level here. I heard him better earlier.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you talking, Mark, but I can't understand you. The only thing I can really from your transmission is there's a very, very weak voice. Does anybody else hear Mark better than Dean or I? Well, it sounds like conditions may have shifted a little bit. So, is there anyone else who wants to check into the Pacific Northwest Indecent tonight?
Question for Dean.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob, N7RLD.
Yeah, Dean, I just wonder, how do you match the 213 coax? How do you connect it to the 75 ohm, and how do you connect the 75 ohm to the big vertical loop? Back to you, N7XS, N7RLD.
Yeah, I just use a barrel connector at the end of the. I've used RG11 coax, so I just use a barrel connector to connect it to the RG213, and I've got a center insulator that just runs the coax, the RG11, straight into the bottom of the loop, and it's all soldered up, so it's all waterproof. I had to put a silicone kind of a not temporary, but a gasket around it to keep the water out and stuff like that. It's a big, heavy. I got it from Rob, Robert KJ7. Oh man, good grief, over in Arlington. But anyway, but that's what I use. I have a center insulator. I also have a 40 meter one loop that's the same way with RG11 and all that. It makes it a monoband antenna. But I also have one, and it's done kind of the same way, but I have a different center insulator that has an SO239 on it, and I just screw the coax into that.
Well, that's fine. Thank you for that. Back to you, Rod.
Well, thanks, Rod, N7RLV, and Dean, N7 X-Ray Sierra. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for the group tonight? Please come now. Well, nothing heard, so I think I'm going to secure the net for tonight. And next week, we'll get together. And next week, I've been talking to other hands. I can always get in trouble doing this. But we were thinking about doing an FT8 experiment using NVIS, 80 meters and 40 meters. Now, we won't be doing that next week, but I want you to think about that, and, let's bounce around a little bit, and if there's enough interest in it, maybe we can get that together. So, anything else from you guys? All right, so I'm going to secure the net. It's 1937 Pacific time, and it's, what is it, 0337 UTC. So this is 67 Romeo Oscar Victor, and I'm going to say 73 to everybody.
Have a good evening there, Russ. Thanks for running the net.
Anytime, Dean. And you need to go out to the parking lot for a break when you're working and check in on that mobile antenna. So anyhow, hope you're feeling better, and say hi to Sheila. 57 Romeo Oscar Victor clear.
Well, now that I got myself medicated, I think we're doing better. Anyway, I just took today off. So anyway, have a good one there, Russ, and I'll pass that along to Sheila, and we'll catch you later.
N7XX and 7RLE.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. How you doing?
Hey, can you do 160 meters tonight?
Yeah, sure. I can. I have to tune up, but I can. Yeah, I've got a 160 meter loop that's up above these.
We tried it last week, and it was pretty rough, so I'd like to try it again tonight. And anybody else is still on frequency, we'll go back to the same frequency we used last week, which is the old street corner 1.847. 1847. Does that work for you, Dean?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. It'll take me a minute to get set up, but when I get there, I have to use the antenna tuner on the 160 meter loop, because I use it on all bands, and I'm feeding that one with a ladder line.
Roger that. Well, I'm just really curious as how tonight would compare with last week. So I'll go down to 1.847 and be patient. Anybody else want to come down with us?
57 Romeo Oscar Victor, 1847 kilohertz, and I'm assuming it's LSB.
Roger, Ross. You got it.
All right. Hopefully I'll see you down there. I've never been on 160. I don't know if I can tune my antenna, but if you don't hear me, you'll know why.
Okay.
I got the frequency written down, and I will meet you there.
All right. I'm going to QSY N7RLV. S9.
Yeah, I've got you about 20 over.
So did you hear the other station? I think I heard Kilo Juliet 7, Juliet Lima Kilo, but did you hear him, Dean?
Yeah, who was I just just got on frequency here, so I didn't quite get it.
Kilo Juliet 7, Zulu Juliet India.
Yeah, I think I heard Don. Chuck, could you hear?
I heard KJ7 Zulu Juliet India.
All right. Well, it's in and out for me too. I thought I heard Juliet Lima Kilo, but I couldn't swear to it. He was on Don. Juliet Lima Kilo was up on 80. So Chuck, are you hearing Dean KF7SDL? Do you hear N7XS, N7RLV here?
I hear somebody really loud over here, and I didn't catch his call sign, KF7SDL.
Yeah, KF7FZL from N7XS. I'm copying you really nicely here. You're about 30 over.
You're about the same, about 20, 30 over, yes. And where are you located?
I'm on Camano Island here in the state of Washington, up here north of Everett.
Oops, that's sideways up in the air.
I'm in Middle Valley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is KJ7VJI. This is AMP in Spokane.
Oh, KJ7 ZJI. Okay, I did hear you earlier.
Yeah, Roger. There's a lot of FT8 running pretty close by.